section right here. You need to just go ahead and come on in and rest your feet and take a seat for the best time today. Right here on the spotlight stage, we have Kip and Mona Lisa Harding, authors of the book College by 12 and their latest book, The Brainy Bunch. The Harding family has an inspiring story of how they've homeschooled their 10 children, and 7 of them thus far have been able to start college by the age 12. Do you think your child could start college that early? Perhaps. But it is an amazing story, so come on in. Y'all come on in and just sit down. We only have 25 minutes of a great story to hear. And please welcome Kip and Mona Lisa Harding.
Hey, thanks. Thanks very much. Okay, as she was saying, we have a lot of kids in college by age 12, and for a lot of folks, they wonder, well, what is that? What's causing that? Are they have a bullwhip, or is he a drill sergeant? What is she telling these kids? Is there something genetic going on? And so we want to disperse the myths real quick, and then get going and show you that it is for everybody, and it's something that anyone can do.
Thanks for having us. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to our sponsors in the booth right over there, the Birmingham Fun and Family magazine.
All right.
Yes.
This is what the media likes to call us, and like I said, it's something that just stuck, and sometimes it's kind of embarrassing because really, Kip and I are not that smart. We're just very blessed, been blessed by God, and we're so grateful. That's a picture from People magazine, and we're just an ordinary family. We are God-fearing people. We homeschool, and keep going. Go ahead. Just an average homeschooling family. Not that you know many with 12 to 10 kids, but we're not perfect. We share a lot of the ups and downs of our lives in the book, just things, trial errors, things that we tried didn't work. But Kip here's my high school sweetheart, my prom date, and we went to public school together, and our experience in public school was kind of one of a lot of fun, a lot of parties. I didn't know the Lord back then, and I look back now and realize there was a lot of time wasted, and we wanted something better for our kids. So when we had our first daughter, we got married at 18, I had my first daughter at 19, we decided that we wanted to homeschool, but I was kind of scared, didn't know exactly how to go about it. And one of the things that Kip did, he was still in college, doing it the hard way, you know, taking classes while working full-time, being in the military, and he would spend a lot of time babysitting Hannah while I was working a nursing job, and he would teach her some math. And I don't know if it was just spending time with Daddy or what it was that clicked in her brain, but she got really good at math. And
for the Southern Women's Conference, you can see how important a dad's role is, where if you can get your kids excited about learning, get the dad involved. And that's a real key part of it.
Very much so. And even more so for girls, I think. So I was working an evening shift, and I met a nurse who was homeschooling her kids at night. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of work. Work all night, come home, homeschool your kids, try and sleep in the afternoon. And she had 5 kids, and it was just amazing to me that someone would work that hard. You know, when you could just ship them off somewhere. And so I started to really feel that pull on my heart. But I was scared. I was like, so how do you do this? But one of the things that stuck with me is she had a child who was having trouble in school and was getting into a lot of trouble, and was labeled as, you know, having a behavior problem. But once she brought him home and homeschooled him, he did great. He really excelled because he was able to be taught at his own pace.
And so, instead of thinking of pushing kids, you're really pulling them along. You're telling them, hey, ask them, what's your vision? What do you want to be when you grow up, so they can see themselves in that role. And then, so if you're a grandparent, you can think about, well, what do my grandchildren want to be when they grow up? Is mom and dad helping them to get there? One of those things you can do is get them to take the SAT test or the ACT test. And you're really never too young for these exams. And you can take them basically as many times as you want. The SAT, I think, limits you to 12 times. So go ahead and have your child take it. It's not going to be the end of the world. Even if they go in there and they only get their name on the paper, they won't run out screaming and die. Nothing's going to happen. The worst thing that can happen probably is what happened to us. There's a lot of teenage drivers So they scraped the side of our car, so be careful where you park when you go in.
That actually did happen. But that slide, we put that out there because we are sometimes online criticized for, oh, those crazy people are pushing their kids. But really, through homeschooling, we found that we couldn't help but accelerate them. It was like the next logical thing to do is once they're finishing up high school, you know, what are you going to do? Keep them in 12th grade for 4 years because you're waiting till they're 17, you know?
And there's no pitch like you got to buy some expensive curriculum. Because what we show is it's the curriculum that works for your kid is the curriculum you need to get. So, because like when we all dress, we don't wear all the same clothes. We get them tailored to fit us. And it's the same way with education. The more it's tailored, the better it's going to suit your individual child.
So we did buy some box curriculum at first, but we quickly found out that the more relaxed we were and the more we just let the kids read and write what they wanted, they started asking more questions and started kind of honing their skills into their little areas. And you know, we mentioned Hannah. She was doing 2 lessons of math a day because she would rather do math than write. So I'd make her do the minimum requirement for writing, but then she was just all about the math. And that's just who she was and who she is today still. But today we have our younger kids with us, and we've had a good time today, right, kids? Going to field trips, the museum, walking to Railroad Park, stopping at the landmarks around the area, you know, talking about civil rights, and that's kind of our whole approach. So, you know, today's kind of a homeschool day. Yesterday, traveling up here was a homeschool day. Just as Deuteronomy chapter 6 tells us to teach our children as we go, and that's kind of our whole approach. And that's how we're able to homeschool year-round, too.
And if you don't homeschool, that's okay, too. Just a little bit after school in what they want to learn, then you just direct them towards it. Yeah. And so now we'll talk about Hannah. She was our oldest. She outdid her mom in math real early, so don't worry about the good problem to have is when you got to send them off to college because you need help with the math that they're taking. She did start her first class at age 12. Mom was outside the door. It wasn't like we dropped her off at college and said, here you go, you're on your own. She just stayed out there and walked around the track, and I can tell you when I went to my son Heath, my 4th child, I was there, and the teacher said, well, he's too young, he doesn't have enough experience, a life experience. And I said, well, just give him a try, let's see what happens. And sure enough, by the end of that semester, when he's got an A, he was a believer too. That, you know, Anne Frank herself wrote a diary at a very young age. So these kids can do amazing things if you give them a chance.
We did have the benefit of living in California at the time, and Hannah was able to take the California High School Proficiency Exam, and we skipped a few. So she ended up coming here to Montgomery, Alabama. That's where we're living now, and got her bachelor's at 17. She got a master's at 19. And this slide is them in Spain with their Aunt Mimi, and this is just to show that our kids are not just nerds, okay? They have traveled the world. They have held leadership positions. Serena there on the bottom right was an ambassador at Huntington College. And so I would say, by the grace of God, they've turned out to be very well-rounded. They have great social skills. And I know people are so worried about homeschool kids or at home doing nothing. But in our case, they've seen a lot of things. And Hannah, that's her on the right. She's very close with her sisters.
And I wanted to say, if you have a special needs child, that's fine too, because there's times in Hannah's life where she has had an issue where she's not right there with you, okay, to put it nicely. And so some people need to take medication, and that's okay too. So don't think you have to have a stellar kid to find great results. You got to work with them, and you'll see some great things happen.
Rosanna is our second daughter, and one of the things she did she went to private school for 2 years. That was in the beginning before I was scared to start homeschooling. And she had a school teacher write on her report card, I still have this report card, that she was a real daydreamer. And you know, the teacher would be lecturing over here, and Rosanna would be looking out the window, how the light flowed into the room, and doodling in her math book. And she did this when I brought her home to homeschool. And I would say, Kip, this child is so unfocused. You know, she won't do her math. And thankfully, my husband, getting it, he connected the dots for her. It's like, you want to be an architect, you have to do your geometry, because that leads to physics. And no one's going to let you build a building, you know, if you don't understand physics. So once she focused, then she was inspired to do her math. She still doodled a lot, and we started realizing, oh, this is a gift. Let's let her take art classes and design classes. And so thank goodness she was homeschooled and able to do that.
And women, as we know, young girls around middle school age tend to drop out of the maths and sciences. Something goes on in here, they say, well, it's just not for me. Well, I think a lot of it is in the way that it's taught. Instead of the traditional sense, like we're sitting here where there's an instructor in the front and there's chairs, women like working together, as we can see here today. Women are more about teams and relationships. So if you have group projects, it works much better for them. And you have that kind of freedom when you homeschool, and so that's one thing that's a success. But our little doodler, by the way, grew up to be an architect, and she went to one of the finest institutions in the country. She just graduated from Cooper Union in New York City, and so she's doing really, really well. And she married an architect herself. So these doodlers, or whatever they're labeled, whatever your kid is, don't let your kid get labeled. Use that as an advantage. Turn around and see how that can be used.
And people ask us all the time, but how do you know what your child is going to become? What are their interests? And that's an advantage of keeping them close to you. Like we mentioned in that last slide, Rosanna would go with us, and we like to look at houses and model homes. That was like our favorite thing to do. And she was just looking at the layout, and at age 10 asked us, who decides how this building is designed? And we told her it was an architect, and she had to go and read about architecture. And that's when that light went on. This is what I want to be. I want to be an architect. And I don't think necessarily if she had been stuck in the classroom, I don't know that she would have gotten that until much later. So it was that real life experience of I guess you'd call that a field trip, just looking at model homes. But this is her husband, and they were able to marry young. She was able to put him through his master's degree, and we are kind of for that.
Again, women are very conscious of time. Men aren't quite so conscious of it. Women think about next life chapter that's about to happen to them. So learning school early and getting those blocks checked helps you out to live the life where you want to head to.
So there, that photo is of her becoming a youngest member of the AIA. And Serena is our third daughter, and this is where a time in our life when she was born was during Desert Storm, and we were both in school. And a lot of people think, a third child now? Oh Lord, this is not, it's kind of hard. But God in His infinite wisdom knows where you're going to be 20 years later. And I just thank God, because she's a sweet, sweet girl, and she was born in between semesters. It was just so sweet of her to do that, to arrive on time. And I was able to get through that year of school. And at age 10, she felt this calling in her life to be a physician. And when our kids come down the stairs and say, Dad, I want to be a doctor, he takes them seriously. He doesn't say, oh, that's sweet, go play. He's like, okay, sit down. You know about medical school? It's going to have 4 years of undergrad. Then you got to do residency. And this is a 10-year-old, and she's in tears. She's like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Tell me what I need to do. And I'm like, okay, well, you're so advanced now. This is what you have to do to finish high school, and you have to study for the SAT. And if you get this grade, then you can go down the street to Huntington College. And don't worry, we'll do 2 classes, and Mom will be right there. I'll pick you right up after class. And she's like, okay, let's do it. And so she's excited because she knows she's going to be in school for a long, long time.
But the school, the trick is, the schooling is what she wants to learn. Because the sooner you get through all the freshman year of all the courses everyone has to take, you take the courses that you want to take. And that's when things get really exciting. And it's cliche, but you have to tell your kid to turn off the light at night because they're studying. That's another good problem to have. And it could be your kid too.
And to folks out there who think we're pushing our kids too hard, this sweet girl brought home a C in chemistry, and she was in tears because she's like, I can't have a C to go to med school. We're like, it's okay. Did you do your best? If you need to take it again, whatever you have to do. But she just knew, it's like, I want to go to med school. This is my thing. I know it's my calling. And, we kind of have to tell her, lighten up. It's like, okay, we'll study some more later. Let's go to a movie, or something.
Now she's currently in Hawaii, and she's serving in the Navy, and she's taking care of our frontline Marine type troops. So, and so she's really leading the charge, and women need to be proud of young women doing these kinds of amazing things. But again, it's not genetics, it's not pushing kids, it's unleashing kids to do what it is that they want to do.
Yeah, she did have to get a waiver to get commissioned at 18, because they usually don't commission you till 19, but there she is. She's very tender-hearted. I never thought she'd be working with Marines. Now, to those of you that say, oh, their kids are just smart. Honestly, the only one child that I would say probably didn't need me to teach him anything was he. He just like was born, and then he was like reading at 4 and started doing algebra at 8. He was just one of those kids. I have others that like just want to play Legos and jump on the trampoline. But this kid, he was a smarty pants, you know. He kind of was a big little know-it-all.
Some of that is birthing order. So he's the oldest son, so thinks he's got this position, so he tries to live up to it. But he's a great guy. I love him, and he's now he's gone from an English undergrad to computer science master's degree, and he's kind of done with school now. Now he's getting into new things. He likes a healthy living, so he's looking at going to Tuskegee to learn a few things about organic farming. So it's okay. What we also find with people is we all change careers in our lifetimes, and that's okay. And kids should be entitled to do that too. So your kids, when they're young and they're starting college, although it's expensive and you have to pay those things back, if you leave a trail of degrees behind you, that's another good problem to have, because employers can see, hey, you've got that stick-to-itiveness to make it to graduation, to pursue something, and that's worth hiring right there.
There's that quote about the teacher saying that he didn't have enough life experiences, but he did end up beating his sister's record and got his bachelor's at 15, and she's so proud of him. There's no sibling rivalry going on there. And when I drove him to graduate school, his advisor thought that it was very sweet of me to drive him. She didn't realize, till she dawned on her that I had to drive him because he was only 15. But you mentioned that he graduated already, and he also loves to tutor younger kids. And then we had our child number 5, who just was so quiet, and we thought we have to help him find his passion. And I think I really prayed over this child more than any of the others, because I'm like, he doesn't talk to me that much. You know, he's so quiet. I have to draw everything out of him. And until he decided to pick up the violin, and we're not musical, and so this is where we know it's not us telling our kids, you will be an engineer, you will do this, you will do that. He came to us and said, I want to have violin lessons, and he was just practice all the time.
So he's another really strange case of how a child can go down one direction. He got his bachelor's in music, and then now he's working on his master's in counseling, and at the same time, he's already learned sign language. And if you can't hear, you can't hear music. How those two are going to go together actually makes him a very rare person that has a skill set that not a lot of people have. So when the economy's tight, there's somebody that you can employ. So could I have thought these things out well in advance? No way. That's where you can see God working in your life and in your family doing good things.
So if your child has some odd little interests, you never know how it's going to work out, and how so he's taking an interpreter exam, and he is a hearing child, but he's so interested in the deaf community, and the Helen Keller story and all that, and again, the way God works ahead of time. When Seth, our 6th child, was born, we were down at the UCLA area, and he had surgery, and our daughter Serena was about 10, and she was going with us to all these doctor visits, and interested in just everything that was going on with his kidneys. And she was not in a classroom at the time. She was with us and come home and would research all that. And that whole atmosphere of being in a hospital setting, a teaching hospital, that's I think around the time when she knew she wanted to be a doctor. But this is the child, I love him so much, but he did not want to learn how to read. He wanted to just like, Mom, can I be a garbage man? Can I do anything? Because I don't want to read. I just want to play Legos. Please let me go outside. Please. I would call him at work and say, Seth will not do his work. He just wants to go outside. And you would say, let him go outside.
Yeah, boys need to learn differently than girls if you haven't figured that out already. But there are some outdoor boys that need to be climbing trees. You can still read in a tree. You can do some weird thing. Just be safe about it. Not too high. Okay? But Seth now, he's a sophomore at age 13 at Huntington College, and he's tall, which helps him. I guess he'll top out around 6'1" when he's finished growing. But for the girls, when they go to college, you can't really tell a girl's age a lot of time, which is a good thing. So if you want to send a girl off to college, go for it, because nobody will know they're young except you and your mom and your dad. Now Seth still plays with young friends. He likes to game a lot. You got to watch out for that Xbox One and all this stuff. But so he's a kid off campus, and he's academically inclined on campus. And you can't have that type of personality and not be have some kind of trouble socially.
Yeah, a good point about that is that a lot of times we're trying to put those little boys in desks way too many hours a day, and that would not, he would have been a problem child, you know? And I tell him that all the time. He's like, I know, Mom, you're always telling me that. And Katrina, sweet, dear girl, is growing up in this family, seeing what all her siblings are doing, and she just is like, okay, so I think I want to study law, and I want to study theater, and she's looking at the older brother, Keith, is like, yeah, come join the choir, and then you can try out for plays, and he helped her audition for Les Mis at Faulkner University. She doesn't know any better. She really doesn't know any better. There's no pressure here. She's just like, oh, yeah, okay, I can start choir next semester. And isn't it about time for me to start studying for the ACT, you know? And it's just kind of a natural thing at our house. And she did start this January, and she is 11, and she's now taking 9 units at Faulkner University. And, you know, again, if you're not homeschooling or your kids are in the school, that's great, but you can still look for things outside that are specifically for them and their calling and what they're really interested in. And she got to intern this summer. This was her first day. She's like, I feel so grown up. She got to intern at Justice Parker's down in the county.
Now we need more women lawyers. I hope that she makes a difference and an impact. And but don't hold your kids back, because traditionally it's not a role for them. She's another groundbreaker, and she's going to do great things. And it's all because the parents are unleashing their children to do what they want to do. And just think about that with your children. What is it that you could get out of the way of to allow them to do great things?
And Mariana is here with us, and she talks about being a doctor. And, you know, she's still very young, and that's why we brought her with us. But the thing about her is that the advantage she has, you know, having an older sister that's already a doctor. And it's just really exciting to see what God's going to do with these little guys.
Now, she's young, and she's sweet, and she's entitled to change her mind 100 times today. But each time I ask her, she keeps coming back with, I want to be a baby doctor. So I'll go to the library, and I'll give her books on pediatrics, and close your ears, honey. I won't tell her they're big people books. Okay? That's another trick. You don't need to tell them this is way above your age level. You just give it to them and see what happens.
We do that a lot. Not that we expect them to open up, you know, textbooks or anything, but just letting them see what's out there. And then Lorena's our 9th baby, and she is, at this age, you can even call us unschoolers. You know, the opposite of homeschoolers, I guess, would just be having a good time reading books all day, and lots of field trips and no pressure. And then Thunder, I don't know, maybe our last child, whatever. This is the oak tree in our backyard was struck by lightning on June 28, 2009, and 9 months later to the day he was born. I don't know what that's all about. And the psalm that I read the next morning as I'm calling the insurance company to repair all the windows that were blown out on the side of the house, it says, the voice of the Lord is upon the waters, the God of glory thundereth. The voice of the Lord breaketh the cedars. I don't know what that's about, but we'll see. We'll see. And there he is.
So, why so many kids? And we'll just talk 5 more minutes and we'll be done. Why so many kids? Well, we just feel like the Bible says so. And so we didn't want to challenge it. We have 8, 9, and 10 here. We wouldn't be here if we lived in China. They wouldn't be in here if we obeyed the unwritten rule in America, which is about 1.8 children. With immigration, it's about 2.1. So, there's a great book out now by this guy, Jonathan Last, that I've read recently. Fantastic. What to expect when no one's expecting. America's coming a demographic disaster. It'll make you rethink what you've been told about overpopulation and some other things that you learn in public school that really, when you look into the facts, aren't so. So, again, there's some great sayings there by, starting with Mother Teresa and repeated by Michelle Duggar. from the 19 Kids and Counting, about saying there are too many children is like saying there are too many flowers. Children are a blessing, and they can do great things if you just believe in the kids. So dream big. No matter the size of your family, if you have one kid, if you have two kids, if you have grandchildren, just start to think of what you could do in a day and age when you have all the world at your fingertips, all the world's libraries I could touch with this thing, if you really think about it. With Wikipedia and all the things with YouTube. It's a dangerous thing. When you walk by a person who's kind of dressed, not completely, what the Duggars kids do is they say Nike, which means look down at your shoes. And it's the same thing on the internet. We say Puma, so personally unsettling material. So that means you better click off that. It's the same thing with this. So it's a powerful tool. Use it for your kids, but teach them Puma, to where to click, especially your boys. So with that, we have a book out there called the BrainyBunchBook.com. I'd love for you to visit it and buy a book online at any retail store. This is what it looks like here. And then again, thanks to our sponsors that are in the booth right there, the Birmingham Fun and Family magazine. And thanks again for listening to me.